Absolutely a make-or-break game for his future with the Browns. I mean, I'm not going to say the future in the NFL because there's always somebody that might give you a second chance and grab you. But in terms of his future in Cleveland, it's this Sunday. He cannot look like trash. He cannot go out there and complete 25% of his passes. He cannot look lost and completely discombobulated. And we're not going to throw out excuses about him not having any time, any reps with the first team. And I'm not saying this negatively towards him. I don't believe he was put in a position to succeed the other day. I don't believe he's been put in a position to succeed with the Cleveland Browns. I view the Cleveland Browns as a house divided, where whether it's the offensive coordinator and the head coach having a different view than the GM and the owner or whatever it is.
You won't believe that this actually took place. When Stephen A. Smith woke up, he chose chaos and attacked Shedeur Sanders as if his Wi-Fi bill had increased in the middle of the night. It was more than a tirade. Analysts were blinking as if they required subtitles, since it was a full-fledged theatrical catastrophe. The most bizarre thing is that Shedeur didn't even do anything dramatic this time. So fasten your seatbelts, because whatever Stephen A. released must have sprung from a level of annoyance that scientists haven't yet identified.
Is there anything to this Shedeur not getting first-team reps?
I think it's a little bit strange.
Yeah. You do think it? So you think it is?
I mean,
okay.
the guy's one turned ankle one concussion check from upstairs. Drake May had to leave the game for 2 plays last week because upstairs they thought he had a concussion. Right. So how could he not get 1 rep during the week? Now, just because that's the answer doesn't mean that's what's happening, but that struck me.
So you weren't buying what he was saying about, Dylan did because Flacco?
No, I buy that. I buy that he.
Yes.
Please subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying it. You won't believe how much it helps. The football world went into complete meltdown mode as soon as the Browns revealed that Shedeur Sanders would be switching from quarterback 4 to quarterback 1, as if he had simply skipped 3 video game levels. All of the analysts suddenly became detectives, fortune tellers, and amateur psychologists, attempting to determine whether Sunday's game versus the Raiders was a setup, a fresh start, or the NFL's most chaotic science experiment.
Sanders has earned first-team reps when training camp commences later in July. I'm not saying like he's the first guy up when you do 11 on 11s, day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at training camp. I'm not necessarily saying that, but he's the one quarterback that we didn't get a chance to see take reps with the ones. But I think Shedeur has a chance to make this conversation interesting if he gets those reps with the ones and he has the same success that he did with the 2s, the 3s, and the 4s. I have confidence he can show you something, but I gotta see it.
Naturally, Stephen A. Smith led the charge with ferocious vigor, treating Shedeur's predicament like a government conspiracy wrapped in a coaching mystery with a dash of sabotage theory for flavor.
Give a damn. You have a coach in Kevin Stefanski who is a 2-time coach of the year. This man knows what he's doing. I respect the hell out of Kevin Stefanski. There is no way that you could send a quarterback out there looking that damn lost, not having any cadence, any reps whatsoever with the first team. No way. That's what happened. And I don't think that's an accident. That's just my personal opinion. I don't report on the Cleveland Browns. I'm not coming from a knowledgeable and informed perspective here. I haven't gotten word from anybody.
Because it seems like in Stephen A.'s world, this one game, this one Sunday afternoon, may decide Shedeur's entire future in Cleveland. Not the NFL overall, but Cleveland in particular, because even Stephen A. is aware that the league will always give a gifted child another opportunity.
Give him a week of practice. Let's let him get a game plan. And let's let him actually get some reps. You can see that it's there.
Mental reps compared to live bullets flying and doing the real thing is night and day. It is so difficult against that Baltimore defense to have no preparation throughout the week, at least from a physical standpoint.
If you watch that second half and watch what we've seen, he should just be the starter. Man, that dude at least tried to push the ball down the field.
However, Cleveland said that the door might slam, he said, closed as if someone had caught their sibling in their room without authorization. Additionally, he created the iconic Stephen A. style, incredibly clear. Shedeur is unable to leave the house. It appears that he has forgotten which team he plays for. No 25% garbage performance completion rate, and no meandering about the pocket like a lost grocery shopper. And there are no justifications at all about repetitions with the first squad due to Stephen A. having run out of tolerance, grace, and apparently oxygen when talking about the Cleveland structure of organization. Not that he holds Shedeur accountable. Actually, he referred to the Browns as a house split, a team where the attacking head coach and coordinator could be. While the GM and owner are playing checkers, they are engaged in a monopoly game. Or perhaps no one's playing anything since no one knows what the other individual is doing. He claims that Shedeur hasn't merely been prepared for failure. He didn't even equip you with the necessities for success. Not reps, no planning, no cadence, no rhythm, and not even an opportunity to breathe before being tossed into an actual NFL fire. But keep it in mind, because at the time, Stephen A. began making a loud suggestion that perhaps something deliberate was taking place. In the background, Dan Orlovsky almost heard Dan swallow his own eyebrows. The implication was heard in the tone, and I got straight into, let's walk this back, before Twitter went into overdrive. He wasn't even disputing the circumstances and appeared disorganized. All he wanted was for everyone to put an end to the sabotage theories.
Out inept. A talented quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, at least when I saw him in college, was in his first pro debut when he came in after Dylan Gabriel went down. But now he's getting those reps because Kevin Stefanski has said he's starting this weekend. Now we're going to see. I'm not telling you got to go out there and look like a star or anything like that. But he cannot look completely clueless. He cannot look lost. It cannot replicate what he did that past weekend, and he's still going to have a future in Cleveland. I don't believe it for 1 second. That's what I believe is on the line right now when we're talking about Shedeur Sanders.
However, Stephen A. was not backing down. Like a man filling out a parlay slip, he doubled down. He believes that something is wrong if you are a two-time Coach of the Year and you send out a quarterback who appears to be absolutely lost. And not in the sense of whoops or tough day at work, but rather, how did a QB2 go out there looking like he downloaded the playbook that morning? Dan attempted to reason with him using numbers, logic, and the argument that these things occur. However, Stephen A. was not acting rationally. He was acting based on suspicions, vibes, and 30 years of witnessing inexplicable actions by football groups. Furthermore, he didn't believe that this was only a novice error or bad luck, because people seem to start asking questions when you reach quarterback 13 under Stefanski. However, the discussion then turned to the genuine question of whether this game will have any long-term effects on Shedeur. At that point, Ryan Clark entered with sufficient energy to power the entire panel. Not only did RC disagree, but he also destroyed the entire game that determines your future argument as if it were made of paper straws. Because in his opinion, it is absurd to evaluate a rookie quarterback based on just 1 week of first-team reps with the poorest skill group in the league. Shedeur is joining the squad that was unable to use a Black Friday deal to purchase offensive production. After 4 practices, he's expected to carry them in some way. Not taking place.
NFL scouts, aficionados said the game appeared to be too quick for him, that he routinely held onto the ball too long and was subjected to immense pressure, 11 quarterback pressures and 2 sacks, by the way. I don't know whether Shedeur Sanders is an NFL quarterback or not, and I don't blame anybody for assuming and surmising that he may not be. But how does he get 0 snaps with the first team? How a player is able to say they were unfamiliar with his snap count? He wasn't.
RC wasn't done yet. In the finest way conceivable, he advanced, deepened, and made the conversation more petty. Because RC played the life ain't fair card like someone who has lived it, whereas Dan sought to maintain objectivity and reason. He also made the point that there is a distinction between how teams handle quarterbacks selected in the 3rd and 5th rounds, something that everyone understood but chose to keep quiet. You won't receive the royal treatment because Shedeur is the 5th rounder. The red carpet is not coming your way. You won't receive extra patience, personalized play designs, or priority reps. After everyone else has finished eating, you will receive any leftovers. Additionally, Cam Newton was not amused by the sugarcoating. This is a make-or-break situation, not because it should be, but because that's how the football world works, he stated bluntly. The league must think Shedeur's movie is amazing. Not kind, not encouraging, and he won't improve. No sizzling. If it isn't, supporters, detractors, and half of Cleveland will begin yelling, "See, I told you," before Shedeur even gets to the tunnel. Stephen A. was adamant about pressing the panic button twice, if not 3 times, despite the analysts' attempts to calm him down. He even used Jerry Jeudy as an illustration of how easily the public and media may turn against someone who appears unstable. Additionally, Stephen A. stated that Cleveland supporters will lose their heads and the narrative surrounding Shedeur will crumble more quickly than the Browns' postseason aspirations in any given decade if he records another 4 to 6 games with a passer rating that looks like someone's shoe size.
And sounds like he did pretty good. I've seen the video clips. He's moving in the pocket well. He's finding his targets. He's hitting his targets. He's making plays on the run. He's throwing accurate passes on the move. He's doing all the things that during the pre-draft process, scouts and analysts said would be his positives, his pros moving into the NFL. And he looks impressive. It looked good. And I just want to see what continues to transpire as the week goes on.
Bless Dan Orlovsky. He never stopped attempting to be the voice of reason. He attempted to remind the panel that even great quarterbacks would struggle with this staff, that the Browns' offense is essentially imaginary at this time, and that it would be nearly ridiculous to judge Shedeur based on this mess. However, Stephen A. was not present to exercise reason. He was there to be dramatic, to yell, and to use fervent football speeches to release tension into the cosmos. However, the topic of discussion changed once more, and now we were questioning Kevin Stefanski as if he were giving a congressional testimony. Did he adequately prepare Shedeur? Did he give him enough repetitions? Did he run the quarterback room poorly? Or was all of this an unlucky confluence of organizational disorganization, rookie mayhem, and lousy timing? Cam mentioned the actual receipts. Joe Flacco, backup reps, Stefanski refusing to speak Shedeur's name in the media for weeks, and the odd decisions that made everyone squint a little harder. It's suspicious, not accusatory, as when someone says they didn't eat your leftovers but the refrigerator smells like you're missing spaghetti. In support of it, RC noted that Cleveland hasn't exactly been throwing Shedeur a red carpet event since draft day, from being overlooked in favor of other rookies to being selected lower than anticipated. The company hasn't precisely.
The knock against him is that he's about the why. He's not somebody that just does what he's told. He wants to know why. That's true, but it smells. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but it smells to me. I really viewed him as being set up to fail, or at least not prepared to succeed. Maybe set up to fail is too strong because it speaks to the intent of a malice nature by the head coach, Kevin Stefanski, which I would not do. I'm not.
However, Dan, ever the optimist, continued to promote the notion that the Browns weren't purposefully causing him trouble. Even if it didn't look good, they were only acting in the team's best interests. After getting to know Stefan's family for 25 years, Stephen A. made every effort to avoid accusing the man of sabotage. He even took a moment to clarify and reiterate that he was not accusing Stefanski of doing anything improper. However, he also made it quite evident that many people, particularly in Cleveland, had different opinions, and that there would be an overwhelming amount of noise if Shedeur appeared totally unprepared once more. And everything ended up there. A fan base that is about to blow up and a franchise that appears to be in disarray. Analysts are divided between fear, logic, and pure annoyance. And Shedeur Sanders stood in the middle of it all, starting in his first NFL game after 4 practices, a weakened offense, 50 cameras aimed at him, and expectations heavier than a defensive lineman's lunch tray. Stephen A. claims that this is more than just a game. It's a cooker under pressure. Today is a day of judgment. It's a pivotal period in one's career that is surrounded by confusion, upheaval, and perhaps even a hint of suspicion. However, Dan and RC say it's simply football, a challenging circumstance, a first-time experience, and an opportunity to develop, learn, and demonstrate his belonging.
And him and everybody else that we talked to have said that Shedeur looks good. He looks really good.
Yes.
He looks better. And we got Zach that say Dylan Gabriel ain't even an NFL quarterback.
That's true.
So how is it that this man can't get a rep with the ones, but that non-NFL quarterback can?
We all
what
agree with
sense
that.
does that make?
It makes no sense.
Clearly, the guys running the team disagree with us.
Man,
it doesn't make any
and they're
sense.
the ones.
I don't. What are y'all trying to? What is the goal of this year?
In any case, Sunday is approaching and everything is becoming closer to him. Shedeur Sanders is into more than simply a football game. The most hilarious aspect was how everyone on site pretended that this wasn't one of Stephen A's complete meltdowns during a meteor shower. Instead of starting a frustrated roasting session that could have powered a small city, they were sitting there nodding as if he had just dismantled old philosophy. Producers, meanwhile, were off-screen, figuring out how many sponsorships they would lose if he became even a decibel louder. However, everything changed when he mentioned Shedeur. The panel as a whole practically tightened up like a cohesive project team, hearing the child who never works declare his ideas. In around 3 seconds, Stephen A. went from being slightly annoyed to being spiritually offended. Shedeur was no longer a quarterback all of a sudden. He represented all of Stephen A.'s frustrations with youth, contemporary sports, and the cost of hairline upkeep. You'd think Shedeur had personally marched into ESPN offices and changed Stephen A.'s coffee to decaf from the way he presented it. The man began analyzing Shedeur's choices as if he were analyzing a psychological thriller that had won an Oscar. Every instant he dared to appear confident, every half-second pause, every dropped snap. Stephen A. managed to portray it as a national emergency.
They get to 11-on-11 session, apparently, and they've got the first-team defense out there, but it's the second-team offense going against the first team. And who's leading the second-team offense? It's Shedeur Sanders. So Shedeur Sanders is taking reps, and this is what we've been asking for forever. He's taking reps against the first-team defense. And by all accounts, Kid held his own. And you got to remember when we're talking about this, I'm not saying that Shedeur Sanders took first-team reps. He did not. He took second-team reps against the first-team defense.
In the meantime, the panel sat there attempting to avoid blinking too much, as doing so might indicate disagreement, and you were next if you disagreed. The Stephen A. rulebook is that. Either leave the kitchen as soon as the flame starts, or get ready to get sautéed. But when he began discussing Shedeur's confidence, the true humor began. The man pretended that Shedeur was roaming the building in a king's gown, holding a scepter, and insisting that everyone address him as Your Highness of Boulder. As if Shedeur wasn't merely attempting to play football, as everyone in the sports world scrutinized his breakfast selections. But Stephen A. persisted, going into a monologue about generational divides, expectations, entitlement, and everything else that came to mind. Even the camera operators were most likely texting their group conversation at this time. He's not going to quit. Before we missed our lunch break, someone disconnected him. And Shedeur, who had no idea he was the primary character in a broadcast volcanic explosion, was somewhere going about his business, most likely lacing his shoes or doing footwork drills. The Shedeur experience is like that. 5 analysts are disputing whether your respiratory timing influences your draft halt when you sneeze.
You're a QB2. Your QB1 is an undersized dude, a hit away from getting concussed and taken out of the game. Kevin Stefanski is a 2-time NFL Coach of the Year. He knows a thing or two about coaching football. How unprepared did Shedeur Sanders look? Suddenly he's not comprehending plays. Suddenly he doesn't know the playbook. Suddenly he doesn't know what's going on. That's not the reputation that we've ever heard about Shedeur Sanders. We've heard he's incredibly familiar with the playbook. We've heard that he's very, very smart.
Everyone knew that things were going to get heated when Stephen A. brought up leadership. When he is in leadership mode, he speaks with his entire body. Hands flying, chair tilting, eyebrows trying out for their own show. He becomes a motivational speaker who retains his enthusiasm despite losing his notes. He portrayed the situation as though Shedeur had rewritten the team's charter, launched a coup, and made himself the QB emperor, all because he showed a modicum of assurance. In Stephen A.'s universe, you can only be confident if you're a legend, a veteran, or someone who personally phones him after games. Is there anyone else? It seems to be a federal violation. For dramatic effect, he would pause each time he made a point as if he thought lightning would strike the building. However, nothing hit. Most likely because even the weather knew better than to cut him off in the middle of his tirade. However, there was one indisputable truth hidden beneath all that commotion. In reality, Stephen A. wasn't upset with Shedeur. The misunderstanding around Shedeur infuriated him. The clamor, pressure, expectations, and hoopla all revolve around a rookie attempting to understand the NFL like everyone else. However, rather than stating it clearly, Stephen A. chose to present it as a stormy monologue, which caused the panel to argue on whether to applaud or call.